who are you? Tell us who you are and tell us about you, about Jeff.
All right. How you doing, everyone? My name's Jeff DeSocio, and I live here in Framingham, Massachusetts. I am a former technology executive turned marketer and executive recruiter. I am also a community builder and also a health and wellness nut. That's a lot to take, I would say. So the evolution of me, how did I become a community builder and get into marketing? So like I said, I was in technology for many years, and it just so happens one day I got something in the mail from Northeastern University, where I am an alum, about a networking event. I was like, what? As a techie, I'm like, a networking event? Does that mean I need to put some cables together and do some projects and all that? And I didn't realize that it is professional networking. So I went to this event, met a bunch of very positive people, entrepreneurs, that just totally gave me a whole different perspective of life. And that life was entrepreneurism, right? So fast forward a year or so, I was going to a few events and all. I decided to start my own business. So I have a passion for health and wellness, and I also have a passion for digital and internet marketing. So that was the birth of AIMC Business Solutions. Started as AIMC websites, because back then that's all we were doing was websites. Of course, it's changed over the years. Likewise, I discovered, from a health and wellness perspective, isotonic supplements. And at the time, it was Torch, strength training, protein drinks, and all this great stuff. And I started getting into these supplements. Then down the road, I ended up learning that, hey, I could sell these things. So that was the start of AIMC Health Solutions and allinmycart.com. So all of a sudden, we're in 2009, I had all these things going on. Yes, I still have my technology career. I started my marketing business. I was attending networking events. I was selling health and wellness products. And, when I was going to the event, like you always say, you're working your day job 9 to 5. You're building your empire 5 to 9. I was starting to build my empire. My empire was being a community builder and all. And then as we moved it along a little bit, I was like, you know what? I'm going to all these events. Why don't I start my own group? So in 2013, with the help of a dear friend of mine, Dan Edmonds, I was going to his events, he helped me launch Mass Professional Networking. And I had my first event right here in Framingham, at Pizzeria Uno. It was called Pizzeria Uno back then. Had a very good showing. The first event, we had almost 100 people there. So, with Dan's help, Dan had a big network. So, I kind of piggybacked on his network. And that was the birth of Mass Professional Networking in 2013. So we're moving along, my health and wellness and internet marketing business. I would call it job hopping and getting laid off in my technology career. I ended up saying, you know what, I want to start a blog, right? And I met somebody in one of my events, and they're like, dude, your name's DeSocio. You're a social guy. You're a connector. I was like, the social connector. So I started a blog, DeSocialConnector.com, back in 2015. We're going back a few years. So the idea of the blog was to write about community building and networking, health and wellness, and of course another one of my passions, music. I used to go to a lot of concerts. And entrepreneurism. I say that right. So you're gonna, those are things you're passionate about. I always say, when you have a blog, write about something you're passionate about. So I ended up writing this blog, and over the years, I would contribute articles to my blog. If you go to socialconnector.com, and you would check out some of I would just dump my brain on the topic of the week and write a blog. And then, so my networking events were going along, we're popping along. Now, probably towards 2018, I had thousands of people in my group. Had a group on Facebook, had a group on LinkedIn. And then let's go all the way up a little bit later in my career. I went through 2 layoffs right after during the pandemic and after the pandemic. And I had a little bit of epiphany. So I met a gentleman that owns a recruiting company. And it was about a job. And he's like, Jeff, you would be a great recruiter. You would be a great managing director of my company. So I had to think about that for a minute because that was a little bit of a pay cut at the time. I had, because I was making into six figures as a technology executive. Now I have a role where it's very commission focused, right? Oh, wow, I have to put my sales hat on. So I took it. I said, you know what? It's time, right? It's time to do something different. And I always encourage folks out there, do something you're passionate about, do something you enjoy. So I took it. I did it. And, so I've been doing that for a few years now. And, in addition to building my empire, you notice that 9 to 5 doing that, building your empire 5 to 9, building my events, continuing my health and wellness and internet marketing business. AIMC Business Solutions was not just websites, it was digital marketing services. It was SEO. I partnered with some great companies. When I started that company, I was doing a lot of work myself with some help. But now I'm more into partnerships. I partner with great companies like Thrive and Builderall and my web centers. Those are all the companies I partner with to do my work. And then, guess what? Guess what ended up happening right around the pandemic time when things were really changing? I met a new friend. Now, this is a guy that I actually knew of at my church. His name is James Feudo. So I met him. I think he went to one of my events online, Mass Professional Networking, and then we were talking, we met, and we both discovered a Florida-based group called Epic Professional Networking. So we started going to these events on a regular basis. I used to call it the Hollywood Squares, right? Everyone's pitching their ideas and all that. Brian Daly ran it. And I even got to meet everyone down there when I was down in Florida. So we were, we were networking together. I was learning a lot about James's business, JVF Solutions. By the way, he did the same big leap that I did, probably about a year before me, where he went full time with JVF Solutions. He was a long-time tech executive at TJX, and he just said, you know what, I'm doing my own thing. I want to empower myself. And I love that about him. So, we both were, I would say mindset-wise, we were exactly right lockstep there. And so, James and I went to this event on Epic. We also he went to some of my events. We started going to events like Venture Cafe, some other entrepreneur and startup events in the greater Boston area. And then, James ended up moving into an office here in Framingham State. And we're in the office one day, and I was like, we're on the second floor, like, wow, cool, there's a podcast studio here. I was like, wow, a podcast studio. And, I've listened to podcasts in my career. It was sort of a podcast platform, Clubhouse, sort of like a podcast. It was more of a discussion. But I was like, that's a great marketing platform to express and add value to my listeners. And I was like, wow, I want to do a podcast someday. So we're in the office. I think it was like a late Friday. Why don't we just do our own podcast? What the heck? What do we have to lose, right? So we started thinking about ideas. Of course, AI was around now, right? We'll plug in our chat friends, our co-pilot friends. What's a good name for our podcast? I don't know, the marketing link? No, boring. A lot of them were boring. I was like, dude, you know what? You're a friggin' hotshot. You're a hotshot. Market like a hotshot. Let's call our podcast Market Like a Hotshot. I was like, that's a great name. I thought of it, and I was like, we got to be different. We got to do something catchy. After all, that's what marketing is all about. Is you have to have something that somebody's gonna remember you. So, Market Like a Hotshot, here we are. Let's start with the journey. So, we started recording ourselves. Now, when we first started, we were a little edgy. Our voices were different. We were using funky mics. We weren't in stereo. And they always say you want to jump into something, make mistakes, learn from them, and do it better down the road, right? So that's what we did. We started with episode 1, The Journey. And then, over the course, we had no problems coming up with new topics. Even now, at the writing of this my presentation here on episode like 49, we came up with another great topic. You got to listen to our podcast. a market like Hotshot to know what it is. But so we really, I love the idea because we both are former techies, now marketers, exactly the same. We feed off each other. You don't see, no battles. We're not throwing rocks at each other. We're not throwing our cell phones at each other. We agree on everything, and man, what a partnership! And this is gonna work. So what we ended up doing is, all right, you know what? Podcasts are fun, but let's make this a business. Why don't we make money off this? Why not? Right? We always say do something you're passionate about. So that was the launch of marketlikeahotshot.com. We were like, let's have a website. We bought the domain, James. We through JVF Solutions, we bought all the domains we need, all the logistics that we need. We have a podcast studio here. Like, this could be something huge. So we recorded a few podcasts, and then we got the idea. We started seeing some podcasts. We're doing live broadcasts, from live sites. Why don't we do our first live broadcast? And we called it, our first Market Like a Hot Shot, part 1, right? And we did it here at Framingham State at the Innovation Center. Had a pretty sizable audience for our first one. We brought audience members to come up on stage, even the shy ones, and we had them ask us a question about marketing. We answered it. It was great. And then, we fast forward around. We were like, that was a pretty, we learned a little bit. We made a few mistakes. And I was like, let's do another one. So we did Market Like a Hotshot Live, part Deuce, right? And it has everything to do with movies, right? The movie Hot Shots. We did part Deuce, again here at Framingham State. And guess what? The crowd got bigger. People are starting to know us. We're starting to get followers, slowly growing followers. It's all grassroots. That's what podcasts are all about. That's what businesses are all about, being grassroots. So part Deuce came up, same concept. We had a live broadcast down in the Innovation Center here, and we had people come up, ask questions. We gained more followers, and it's great. It's awesome that we also have this podcast on all the major platforms like Spotify, Amazon, Apple, iHeartRadio, and we always talk about YouTube. You can see our beautiful Italian faces on YouTube. So, and meanwhile, every week consistently, we were recording Market Like a Hotshot. I travel once in a while. I was like, dude, we got to do 2 broadcasts this week. We got to record a couple this week. We've done that a few times already. Consistency is key in entrepreneurship. You have to always be consistent. So, speaking of consistent, we're like, let's do a third live broadcast. We called it Market Like a Hotshot episode 33 and a third, the movie Naked Gun. But this time, let's step it up a little bit. So we are good friends at KP Sports Bar, if I said that right, here in Framingham, which is a great venue. They have a nice pub, they have a pool hall, but they have this nice entertainment room with a stage with neon lights and all that. Wow, we're gonna be big time here. I went to James. It's like, you know what? This is it, man. We're gonna blow this thing up. So we had a big stage. We also debuted our theme songs. Now, if you go on YouTube and look up DeSocio Connector theme song, you can hear my theme song. James has a theme song called The Attraction that's found on the JVF Solutions YouTube channel. Wow, now we have songs. So our entrance for 33 and the third, right, at KP Sports Bar, we were playing our songs. We had over 100 people at our event. People were blown away. I was like, we have videos of it. I was like, wow, this is pretty good. I love this. I can never believe I'm on stage and people are clapping for us. Now, keep in mind, let's go back to pre-episode 1. This started James and I were just looking at this podcast room. I was like, why don't we just do a podcast? What the heck do we got to lose? We had this great live event. And now, here we are, we're after this live event, the mayor was there, We had some really great people, other people that did podcasts that come check us out. Like now people are starting to discover us. And that's what it's all about in the world of being an influencer and even a borderline celebrity that we're becoming here in the Framingham area. It was great. I was in the gym working out one day. I didn't have a shirt on, and somebody yelled out to me, "Market like a hotshot. I listened to your podcast on Spotify." I was like, "Wow, what's your favorite episode?" And I had to think for a minute. I was like, "Do you really listen to us?" But he did come up with the one about branding. It sounds like he was a marketer and all that, but that's what this is all about, right? If you're a marketer, you want to be that person, that magnet, and that's what Market Like a Hotshot is, becoming a magnet. Keep in mind now, I'm still an executive recruiter. I still have my other business ventures. I'm still running my networking events. I forgot to even mention I started a new group down in Rhode Island called Little Roadie Professional Networking with a friend, Mike Merlin. Great guy. He knows all the venues down in the Providence area. So I'm building a following down in Rhode Island. So we had the following in Florida from Epic. We have Little Roadie Professional Networking following in Rhode Island. Of course, here in the Metro West and Greater Boston. So guess what's going to end up happening? Market Like a Hotshot may be going on the road. We're going to be doing a live broadcast, our fourth one, with the fourth Be With You, coming up in June. So it will be our first one outdoors at a farmer's market, which is a little bit different. You always want to try different things. And there's even talk of us, when I was mentioning Little Roadie, about potentially doing a road show down in Providence at some point this summer. Wow, this is becoming big time. Market Like a Hotshot. Hotshot Nation. Hotshot Nation. Think about that. That's us. That's James and Jeff and our followers and our community. So that's where, and the thing is, what's great about it is, we're getting out there on social media. We're doing some funny clips. We did some clips where we had some of our interns pretend they were us. I don't know if they could pretend that were us. We also did some funny dances. We've done stuff where we're doing push-ups before each episode. I still try to keep in shape with those. So we just have generally a lot of fun. And that's what everything is all about with what I encourage you, just like we started a passion of ours with our podcast, Market Like a Hotshot, you should do the same thing. So where's this going to go? Some people may not want to hear this, but of course, that 9 to 5 thing, that 5 to 9 may hopefully become our 9 to 5. I like to get out there and share my knowledge with everybody. James does the same thing. We want to bet this thing to go national, maybe international, through some of our friends, including K-pop, who you are. We'll see where it goes. This story will be continued. I'm Jeff DeSocio, AIMC Business Solutions, Market Like a Hotshot, Mass Professional Networking, Little Roadie Professional Networking. Have a great day.